Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to part two of my little Map to Hope series that I'm making. In this series, I take lyrics from the rapper NF and I look at them and evaluate them from a biblical perspective. Last week, in the first part of the message, we talked about the song Intro 3 and Fear. This week, we're going to take a look at two songs by NF. The first song is going to be Nate off of his album The Search, and the second song is going to be Remember This off of his album Perception. So I'm going to talk about the song Nate first. And in this song, it's a letter that NF writes to his younger self. And there are really a lot of lines in this song specifically that we can look at, but I'm going to take a few. And those lines are, quote, if you got questions or you need advice, then talk to God, because he's the only one that listens, even when you think he isn't. Even good people are great at making bad decisions. Now, that set of lines is very cliche, and you could probably understand why I pulled these ones. But I'm going to focus on this specific line even further, the end of it. And it says, even good people are great at making bad decisions. And that's where I like to start. You see, in my first ever series that I ever put up, I talked about how we are all made perfectly imperfect. But I'd bet that not many of us see ourselves as good enough. A lot of us have trouble forgiving ourselves for some things that we've done. Even though we know that God gives forgiveness when we ask, we still can't forgive ourselves. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys about a very, very good and godly man who made some really, really poor decisions. And how do I know that he's a good and godly man? Well, he was a disciple. So if you know the Bible, and you know, like if you're getting my hint, I'm going to talk about a man named Peter, or Simon Peter, as he's also referred to as. You see, Peter was a disciple who you may know as the guy who, quote, disowned Jesus. He was a follower, a disciple of Jesus who claimed he wasn't. And that is like a big oopsie as a disciple, or as anybody, really. And Peter actually does it 3 times. And spoiler, Jesus told Peter that he was going to deny him, but Peter didn't really believe him. So this event is recorded in all of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, but I'm going to read it from Matthew 26, 69 through 75. Here it is. So, now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. You were also with Jesus of Galilee, she said, but he denied it before them all. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Then he went out to the gateway, and another servant girl saw him and said to the people, this fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth. And he denied it again with an oath, I don't know the man. After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away. And he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, I don't know the man. Immediately the rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word that Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. You see, Peter did a big no-no and a big oopsie, right? And he knows it. Thus why he wept bitterly. And you can go ahead and read it if you like out of the other Gospels as well, out of Mark 14:66 through 72, Luke 22:54 through 62, which is very deep, and John 18:15 through 18 and 25 through 27. So, yeah, big oopsie by Peter. And there's good news for Peter and the rest of us. God forgives. And yeah, like Peter, we all make mistakes, but our mistakes don't define us. Our mistakes don't define us, and they don't tell us who we are, which leads me to the second song that I'm going to talk about from NF, which is Remember This off of his 3rd album, Perception. There's a line that says, quote, mistakes can make us grow. That doesn't mean you're friends. Who you are is up to you. Don't leave it up to them. Mistakes can make us grow. That doesn't mean that we're friends. Who you are is up to you. Don't leave it up to them. Don't leave it up to your mistakes. Truth. Mistakes do make us grow, but they do not control us, the same way that fear does not control us. You see, mistakes can make us feel shameful, but God gives us a sound mind. His Spirit gives us a sound mind. Remember 2 Timothy 1:7 that I talked about in the first part of this series? You see, if we let shame control us, we cannot have a sound mind. So how do we get a sound mind that's free from shame? We accept God's forgiveness, and we accept his love, and we accept his grace, and we understand that our shame does not control us. And when we turn away from it, and we repent and turn away from our old habits to grow with God. And as long as we put our best foot forward and try our hardest, we're good. Because at the end of the day, listen, we all stumble and we all fail. But if we put our best foot forward and we try our hardest, we're good. And how do we know that? Well, let's take a look and see how Peter ends up here. I'm going to be reading from John this time, the end of the story. John 21:15 through 19. So here it is. John 21:15 through 19. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And he answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a third time, "Do you love me?" And he said, "Lord, you know all things, and you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." You see, Peter doesn't let his mistake change who he is. Yes, he disowned Jesus, but he remembers that he loves him, and he knows that he loves him. He just screwed up. You see, that is why he was so upset when Jesus asked him. He wasn't upset. He was getting his shame out. "Do you love me?" "Yes, you know that." So Jesus said, "Okay, feed my sheep," as in lead my people. Lead my people. Feed my sheep. And, he tells Jesus 3 times that he loves him. And he knows who he is as a man, and no matter what, he is a follower of Jesus. And remember that forgiveness? You see, God forgives Peter enough to let him back. He doesn't say, "Peter, no, you disown me." He lets Peter return, and he tells him to go and feed my sheep. He lets him return to the group of disciples. You see, Jesus does not want any of us to be controlled by our mistakes and our shame. He wants us to follow him and practice being kind and practice helping people no matter what. And yeah, we all make mistakes along the journey of helping people, and we will be forgiven. But we need to practice helping people. We need to practice being kind. And yes, it takes practice. I like to say it this way. It's like you're flexing your muscles, or it's like you're doing curls at the gym, right? When you start doing curls at the gym, you don't curl a lot. Eventually, after you're going to the gym, eventually you curl more. It's just like your mindset, and it's just like the kindness and forgiveness that you accept. The more that you practice it, and the more that you make strives to accept it and to be kind and to help people, the more it gets easier, and then eventually that old habit becomes a brand new habit. You are forgiven. So forgive yourself and move with God and allow him to grow with you and strive in you and strive through you and spread his word through you, because we are all called to something. You are forgiven. It's plain and simple. Thank you. Have a good day.